Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another CaseWare webinar. Today, we are looking at the AccountsAdvanced epack release ep4.06.02 and the associated updates and amendments and tweaks and things like that that are included in this release. Today's webinar is going to be brought to you by Anthony Launchbury, our Senior Education and Media Consultant. So Tony will go through the content. My name's Tom Jeffrey. I'm one of the Education and Media Technicians, and I'll be monitoring your questions, making sure everything's running smoothly. Also, put your questions to Tony and have a chat with Tony throughout the content as well. We are recording the session, so if you need to revisit it, it will be available on the YouTube channel. CaseWare UK Client Services YouTube channel will also upload that recording to the knowledge base. And any questions will be included in a Q&A document, which will accompany a recording on the knowledge base. Talking of questions, you could submit those using the control panel there, and it looks slightly different on mobile if you're using a mobile device, but you have the Q&A option there to submit your question, and I will put that to Tony when I can and or answer it directly through the Q&A box there. If we don't get back to you during the session, don't worry, we will do so afterwards, and again, it will go into the Q&A document. We've got the chat field there as well, so we are going to be sharing the release notes for the epack today. So Tony's going to be showing those release notes during the content, but a copy of that PDF will be available in the chat a bit later on. If you wanted to ask a question live via your microphone, you've got the option to use the raise hand feature as well. So I'm going to hand over to Tony now, and we'll have a look first of all at the agenda.
Perfect, thanks there, Tom. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this CaseWare webinar. So the agenda, what we're looking at really. So it's an epack release for company AccountsAdvanced. So we're looking at IFRS changes and looking at changes to the corporate changes to AFRS 101, 102, 105. There's also a summary. I want to go through a few other bits with you and then look through Q&A. The areas I want to have a look at will be looking in how do we apply epacks. Not just pressing the OK button and saying OK to the VLOOKUPs, but what do we do when we've got table updates, or what do we do when we're trying to apply the epacks to areas we've already got custom text in. So I just want to drop into a little bit of that at the end of the session, just off the back of a call this morning, really, just try and give a few helpful tips to make sure that any customization is retained in the file. Now, I'm just going to go through and share my screen, so give me a second here. And right, so hopefully that should be popping up in a second or two. If it's not, I'm sure Tom will be jumping in and letting me know any seconds. All right, so first thing is, so with the release notes, I've got a few files that we're going to go through today. So I've got a corporate file for FRS 102, which is a dormant file. I've got a couple of IFRS files, just to demo a couple of bits. I'm not going to go through the full ins and outs of this. It's more of an overview of the changes and what you can expect, and just to make you aware of a few areas, okay? Now, let's start off with the main file here. So within CaseWare file, I just dropped in the release notes in here for the PDF. So at least that way they're already open, so I can just go through and open those up. Now, with this release note, this is again the same documentation that goes out every time. So apologies for the ones who have already seen these before, but for the new users, then these are the notes that get released with the epack. They're prepared by the product manager. And it gives you the core changes. It doesn't go through every single nook and cranny of every single change, but it goes through all the important ones that you definitely do need to know about. It's also got some important guidance on there telling you, do you need to install the previous epacks? In this case, no, we don't. So if you haven't installed ep4.06.01, you can go straight through to ep4.06.02, and that's going to include some of the enhancements from ep4.06.01. Which one of the big ones in there would be director's report sections and the opportunity to skip those director report sections when it goes into say a small filing copy or an abridged copy, depending if you're UK or Irish client. Definitely useful. If you want those release notes, by the way, we haven't got those in the chat field today, but you can find them on the knowledge base, which I'll show you in a moment or two. Now, document spells out the changes, okay? And I'm not going to read these out to you because, again, you can go through these in your own time. I'm sure you'll read through them a lot quicker than what I can talk you through them on the screen. However, I've earmarked a few areas I do want to drop in and kind of cover. There's a lot of areas like this. So the client feedback. So we've enhanced quite a few areas within the templates based upon client feedback. which you'll see as well within the IFRS file. So the IFRS file here, we've got areas like the cash and cash equivalents that has been brought in through, again, enhancement from client feedback, and also other areas as you scroll down. So areas like the approval of financial statements notes. This is a new section that's been built into IFRS corporates for Irish entities. I think it's a note that most of the Irish clients have already, you guys have already been going through and adding in a text note at the bottom of the accounts to say that there's an approval and adding in that statement. Now it's already pre-built for you and it's available from the accounts preparation table. So we'll be able to go through and access that and build that into the files as we go through. Now, what we're going to start off with, first of all, is we're actually going to start off with going through the epack screen just to point out a couple bits. So I've got another file open as well, which again is an IFRS file. The accounts should already be open, which let me just go through the dashboard and open them up. If not, there you go. So I did already have them open. When you get to the updates, this is one of the first bits off. When you see a screen like this, I don't want anyone to be concerned, but what I do want people to do is to have a look at what the sections are being updated. When you see something like V4 Start, V4 GI, well, these are all the wizard functionality updates. These won't affect the face of your account. So whether you've been doing work for 2 weeks on those accounts, you should always take these updates regardless. There'll be options in there as well for things like tagging, potentially, where we've got CaseWare noise library updates for which will enhance the tagging within your CaseWare installation. So when you open up the wizard, make sure you always take those updates because it won't affect your accounts. And then when you get to like the accounts prep table or the accounts document itself, that's when you're also going to get to see some additional knowledge library updates for disclosures. However, you're also going to see knowledge library updates for CaseWare functionality. And it's really important that you understand the difference between the two, because the functionality ones are generally, we need to make sure we always apply those. Now, these ones we can see is director report sections, and as we go down, there's our SOCI and cash flow, which if we started work on the accounts, we've done quite a lot. We don't really want to update these, do we? Because potentially we're going to overwrite work and we don't want to repeat stuff, which is the right way of thinking of it. However, the ones down the very, very bottom, and we get down to about here, so header ACPT, from here, well, these ones are all CaseWare functionality, or these are looking at updating the headers within documents for additional functionality or fixes that CaseWare has built in. Now, the headers ones, if you're using custom headers, then yeah, ignore those ones because they'll be your custom headers and your firm will need to consider updating them if they need to. However, anything like this header ACPT, toolbar, mandatory tags is an absolute must if you want the IFRS function to work efficiently and to make sure it passes the government gateway. So when this screen opens up, even if you started work, what I need you to do is just scroll down to the bottom and have a look at these additional knowledge library updates that CaseWare make available. So we've always got the right functionality and we don't have any problems getting your account submitted. None of you want to be sitting around waiting for accounts to file and see error messages. So this is one of the ways we can kind of alleviate that from happening in the first place. Okay, so please always update these ones, but be mindful as the headers. As I said, if you use custom headers, then you don't really want to use these. You can see this is an IFRS file, by the way, because of the amount of headers we've got. 50 headers. There's a fair bit there. So be aware of that as you go through. I'm not going to sit here and take the updates because I'm sure for the ones who've already seen the knowledge library screen before, you've already looked at it updating files. So I'm not going to make you watch that within the webinar. So what we'll do, let's jump back in. Let me close this one down so we don't get confused. And then we'll jump back into the other CaseWare files. So I'm going to close this one down as well. There we go. Right, so first things first then, the cash and cash equivalents account policy here. That top one, it's a new policy that's been added in. It's a text note effectively that's now been available from the accounts preparation table. So be aware that if you've manually added that in before, on new files you create from this point on, you can just add it from the prep table and it will do the work for you. You'll have the same editing tools as what you would expect to have with any other text note. So you'll be able to go through and add in your own user text section and edit the wording appropriately if necessary, okay? Now, there's obviously other notes here that I'm skipping past, employee benefits notes and areas like this. However, it's really to get down to this capital management note. It's, again, to comply with the new requirements of IAS 81 to disclose information, as you can see here. But it's really there just to say, okay, how are you, the handling the cattle or the entity, and obviously showing that responsibility. So what we can do here is, I'm just going to jump into the accounts. So let's go through and have a look at this note. Now, cattle management note here. So when we get to the note, first of all, if it's not activated, okay, you can all go to the accounts prep table, and you'll be able to see on the accounts prep table, there's a new line for the cattle management. I've set it up with an issue against it, so I can navigate there quite quickly. There you go. So in my case, it's line 70. So what you want to see on existing files is just to make sure that this has been activated. If it hasn't, then you've got the override option there to use, where you'll be able to override it and drop into your accounts. Okay. Let's navigate back to that though by double clicking on the title. There we go. Give that a second to load back in the accounts. Sorry there. Right, so the cattle management note then. So what we can see straight away is question marks. Now, these here are going to open up new functionality for you. So do have a little peruse through these and make sure you're aware of what options you've got available to you. This option up here, again, will give us some guidance text. However, the functionality it also offers to go through here. So tick here if the entity is subject to externally imposed capital requirements, such as financial covenants. So again, by selecting the tick box here and closing this window, we'll see that the note disclosure will go through and update in the back. There we go, and additional contents built into it. So make sure that we are aware that there's additional tools, bells and whistles hidden around behind these question marks that you can utilize. So tick here to include a basic table providing gearing. So that's obviously the table, as we can see. If I remove the tick, as you'd imagine, it's going to remove the table for us. So again, those options, easier for us to go back and revert just by selecting the tick box and closing it down in the usual manner. But I would say it's a new note, so make sure you do spend a bit of time just going through, seeing how it works. See the green text areas are the same as any other green text area in CaseWare. Shift and enter to drop a line, Control and enter to enter in a page break, and that will open up this little window over here. Okay, so you can go through and tailor those and structure those in the format that you need to. Again, you can access enable editing to build in any bullet points or more advanced features from the enable editing feature. Okay. Underneath this, you've got target gearing ratio. So what that's going to do is give us specific options for this body of text here. Again, from what we can see on screen, it's already got percentage marked, but we can go through, we can update that so rather than showing a percentage, it shows a ratio very easily by selecting the radio button again and closing the window. And as you'd expect, those input cells there have updated now. So rather than showing 2 percentages, it's got 4 cells where we can then go through and put the ratio that we may want. Okay, again, easy enough to revert back should you need to by using the radio buttons. Now, I'd say this is probably the largest note and disclosure that's been added in through the epack. And so have a little look through. The release notes again goes through exactly, tells you when this is applicable. But it is now available from ep4.06.02, and you'll be able to add it in through the prep table if you need to. Okay, so that's the capital management note. We've also got other areas, as you can see back in the release notes here. We've got other non-current investments notes. So IFRS 1 requires a reconciliation movements of the value of investment subsidiaries. So this is effectively a new table that's been built in, reconciliation table. It's updated the previous ones that are there. Again, it's only there for IFRS 101 parents, but again, that will be available as and when you're working on the 101s and you want to build those new tables in. Next one underneath that is your subsidiaries note. Now, this is a new note that's been built in, and it's looking for any kind of component or subsidiary that's not going to be included within the consolidation. So for whatever reason they're not included within the consolidation, you've now got a new, or there is a requirement for Convert to actually show that information. So within the existing notes now we've got new subsidiary tables which will allow us to disclose those subsidiaries. Again, back into the account side, just to show you what the note looks like. Here we are, so the subsidiaries note number 14 in this case. You can see straight away we've got more question marks, more functionality. It will be living behind them. So once selecting it, you can say, okay, composition of group, details of non-wholly owned subsidiaries, changing group's ownership interest. So again, by just removing the ticks here, we're going to tailor the information that we're shown below. in accordance with obviously what we've selected within this window. Underneath this though, we've only got one subsidiary row, haven't we? So when you get here, make sure we do click onto the number of subsidiaries question mark here. This is just going to give us a little dialogue where we can then go through and select 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, all the way up to 20. And then by selecting that, then it will change the script conditions and parameters and allow us to build in those 20, which you'll see a bit lower down. Okay. Okay, so let me go back quickly and update that quick. Oh, I wonder if it changed a little bit soon. Maybe I clicked on the wrong button. Let me just, there we go. Obviously I was clicking around too quickly. All right, so that will build in those rows there where we can then go through and use the inputs. Each one of these will have an option for a text paragraph. Okay, so you may be familiar with this functionality, but if you do want to build in a text paragraph to build in more description below, tick the box, it'll build in a little section as you can see there. It will agree to the key, and we'll see if we go through and update this subsidiary. If I go through and just again, it will also go through and update the title below for that text section as well. Okay, and as I said, you can go through and do this on each one of those up till we get to the 20. Hopefully that no one needs anything more than 20. If you feel that you do have more than 20, or you're going to need more than 20, and that's going to be quite a common area for you, then please put something into the chat field, and then we can pass your comments on to the developers. When they were doing the assessment, they were assuming that really there shouldn't be too many more examples of 10, so they built in 20. Hopefully that will cover everything, but sod's law is the one you're working on will have 21, won't it? So double check on that, let us know in the feedback, and also we'll pass that on to the product development team should there be a need to add some additional rows in. Okay, so subsidiaries. Again, this is all activated from the preparation table. Okay, so the accounts preparation table in this case, what you'll see in there. Let me just search quickly, make it a little bit quicker. Actually, I don't need to. I linked it here, didn't I? By the way, what I was going to do is Control F, which opens up the search window. If you didn't know that, Control F works in most places in CaseWare, so use that to kind of not cheat, but get things done a little bit quicker. Let me just jump on the subsidiaries here. Okay, so mine here, this is going to be obviously populated or activated by using a manual override. The other note that I was referring to earlier, so this other non-current investments, well, this was going to be populated by anything starting off with the prefix, any map number starting off with A0103. So just to show you that quickly, sign mappings. Okay, mine's just frozen a minute on the other screen, so bear with me. Okay, whilst that's frozen, I'll come back to it later. There's no point risking it. So what I'll do is show the mapping, which will go through and drive that note as well. Okay, so moving on down. There we go. That's what we want. So approval of financial statements in response to client feedback. So this is that approval statement I said. It is only applicable to Irish entities, or it's only a requirement for Irish entities to disclose it. Again, there's no requirement saying that you can't disclose it within UK IFRS. However, for European and Irish, that it's necessity. So what we've got now, if I jump back into the accounts, turn this off quickly, and let's have a look at the, there we go. Wait for this to execute script. Right down the bottom here, just before we get to the detailed P&L, the last disclosure now will be the approval of financial statements. Okay, it should automatically be added as soon as you apply the update. And this is one of the reasons why you're going to need to take those updates within the wizards, by the way, because the wizards and the accounts prep table, again, they will require those updates for it to make this available to you. So even if you install ep4.06.02, if you don't take the updates within the file within the wizards, then you may get down here and it's just not even visible because the accounts preparation table hasn't been updated. So make sure we do take those updates within the file. If you're concerned potentially it hasn't been updated or you don't see this here, you've got this little refresh icon over here, which is actually the knowledge library refresh or updates or check for updates button. And you can just click on it. It will spin around and do nothing if you're up to date. If you're not up to date, then it's going to populate that little dialog window where we've got the knowledge library updates, and you can select your way through. In this case, though, you can see there it's checking, it's now recalculating, it's happy that there's no epacks. I don't think that, or knowledge libraries I need to apply to this file. It should all be up to date. There you go. Right, so the approval of financial statements note, let's take a look at it. There we go. It's just a nice simple text note. Again, you can go through and edit these and remove spaces after ons there and update it accordingly if you need to. And again, using the same functionality, shift and enter, control and enter page breaks and so on as you go through. Hopefully the automation is, and that automatically now being available in the files. Hopefully that means that I won't get missed, and it will save everyone a little bit of time. Obviously, just adding in that text disclosure for yourself. Anyway. Okay, so there are obviously other updates. As you can see, I'm back into the corporate file here. There's other areas, notes on accounting policies, updates to taxation notes. There's been lots of fixes as well throughout the AccountsAdvanced template range, which are definitely going to be useful. So have a little look through these, get familiar with what's there. I think Tom's made available the release notes within the chat field, or the downloads, I think.
Yep, they're sitting there.
Super, thanks, Tom. So everyone can grab themselves a copy. If you want to go through and download ep4.06.02, then what you would want to do is you want to get to this address here. So I'll go through and I'll populate. This is the article within the knowledge base that we will want to go to. I'll just drop this into the chat field as well, so everyone's got a copy of that and they can just use it if they want to. Here we go to everyone, and there we go. Hopefully that should be popping up now on your side. And that's going to be the location now on the knowledge base where you can get access to the epack itself and obviously the release notes as well. Apart from that, really, that's as much as I wanted to show you on the updates that have been made available. What I did want to do, and what I mentioned earlier, is just talk about a little bit of a trick when you are updating files. Just to get us started, it won't take a minute or two. It's referring to these table updates here. So there are 19 table updates available. Click to view. If you're working on the AccountsAdvanced template for IFRS 101, 102, and 105, what you've got available to you is a tool to save layouts. Okay, so if we were in this file here, so this is I believe an FS 102 file, just double check. Yeah, FS 102. What you potentially may have done previously is updated, say, either the balance sheet, you've inserted a new row within here, you split out stocks between, again, work in progress, potentially, maybe because it's a material balancing was disclosed on the face of the statement. If you've done that, okay, if you've gone through and edited this table, or if you've gone through and you've edited the debtors note or the creditors note, so, okay, we've gone through to the other creditors and removed the balance that was maybe material DCA balance or something along those lines, then what you can do is you can save this layout. Because as and when you take this update, so as and when you apply these table updates, what it will do is it will take CaseWare's or apply CaseWare's table update, the original one, and see override any of the edits to tables you've done. So off of the back of the call this morning, I just pointed out to the colleague that you can also go through and save layout. So if you have tailored these notes and you spend a lot of time tailoring them and you don't want to have to reperform them, but you also want to make sure you're up to date from a CaseWare perspective. So you've got the right tools, the right functionality, and obviously to make sure all the tagging works and so on. Then what you'd want to do is look at the note that you've edited, go to the layout button over here on the table toolbar. So layout, and then just go through and create your own layout. So you can do that by selecting new. You can then go through and rename it. So Tony's creditors note, or so you give it something a little bit more useful than that, potentially. I'm just going to press enter here. Once I rename it, by the way, I typed it in, and then once I type it in, I just press enter on the keyboard. Once I press enter on the keyboard, you can see then it's locked in. You need to press enter on the keyboard, okay? And then once you do that, you press OK. It's going to take a moment or two, because what it's going to do is it's just taking a snapshot of that table. It's looking at the information within the cells, not just the values of the descriptions, but also the mapping numbers of what populates the balances. And then once you take the update, so now you've saved it, what you can do is now take these table updates. So take the update and then back within your file, once you've taken the update, let's get to the right. There we go. Once you've taken that update and it reverts back to CaseWare standard, all you then need to do is go to the load layout button. And then what you'll see there is Tony's note or your note there, and you can just reload that table layout over it. Compared to recreating the tables, it's going to save you quite a bit of time. So please use that on any IFRS 101, 102, 105 job. We don't have the same functionality within the IFRS templates, but predominantly, I think most people will probably be editing the tables within IFRS 101, 102 for the time being, just because the volume of people that use the template in comparison to the IFRS template. So hopefully that helps save a little bit of time as well, re-performing those edits to your table notes. Okay, so that's all I've got to cover with you today. So I'm going to hand you back over to Tom just to go through any questions that we might have received or just the last bit of housekeeping. So Tom, would you like to come back in?
Thanks, Tony. Yes, we actually don't have any questions at the moment, but you can still submit them. I'll just share my screen so you can just get a recap of the instructions on how to do that. But yes, you're certainly welcome to continue submitting your questions as we go through the wrap up, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I'll also point out that there is supporting guidance on the knowledge base, if you weren't already aware, for much of what you've seen during the presentation. So, for example, taking updates, what functionality updates are, that sort of things on the knowledge base. We also have guidance on saving and loading table layouts. If you need to be pointed in the right direction or you want some clarification on any of that, then of course let us know, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. But what I'll do is I'll just go through the last few slides. We've got a request for saving and loading table layout link, please. Yes, absolutely. We'll get that over to you. I think we've got a quick vid on it as well. So we'll get that guidance over to you as soon as we finish the webinar. So looking ahead, we have got just a snapshot of some of the upcoming webinars. This schedule is updating constantly, starting with year-end close tomorrow. And then we've got a series of mapping webinars, ending with importing and mapping in the cloud. If you go to caseware.co.uk/events, then you'll be able to see the agendas there and register to attend. And then, of course, the recordings are available on the knowledge base and on the YouTube channel. And if you're already snooping around the website, for a different reason, then you'll be able to find that events page under the resources tab at the top. In terms of our social media presence, we have a couple of plugs here. So we have our LinkedIn page, CaseWare, our client services, CaseWare UK Limited. If you follow us there, then you'll be kept up to date with news and events, and we'll, of course, give you a heads up when we have a webinar coming up. Things like getting started guides, we generally tend to point those out on there, so it's a good page to follow. And then we have our YouTube client services channel, which is where we have all of our webinar recordings, and we also have a variety of playlists for our quick vids. And of course, the knowledge base, so kb.caseware.co.uk, and that's where you'll find the epack. So rather importantly, if you have access to the download area, then you will be able to access the epack there and any additional guidance. We do have a question come in, which I'll just slot in because we've got a couple of minutes, which is I've already updated to 406.02 prior to starting my stats and 2021 working papers. I have a notification to say a newer version of 2021 working papers must be loaded prior to the 31st of May. Is there a webinar on these changes coming? So my understanding is that is just a reminder to install the latest version of Working Papers 21, which it sounds like you have, but I'm sure Tony will be able to talk with more authority on that topic than me.
Yeah, it's just a nice, helpful reminder, isn't it? To say to get up to date to Working Papers version 2021. The support for Working Papers 2020 is there till the end of May, so the 31st of May. So you've got a bit of time on your hands, but it's just trying to give everyone a little bit of time to make sure that they can get the your IT teams and so on to get that installed before that date. The 31st of May 2022 date effectively is when we're stopping support for the previous version. So for Working Papers 2020, you'll no longer get updates like epacks and so on. If you're updated to Working Papers 2021, then that's absolutely golden. And it won't affect your epack that you've installed either, so you'll be absolutely fine. However, for everyone else who's on Working Papers 2020, then yeah, you've got a couple of months in you. Well, yeah, got a couple of months there to go through and get that updated. If anyone does need some help or guidance, let us know. Drop us a message in the chat field, and we can get a call or we get the information sent out to you. But don't worry, you won't lose any work, Nicholas. So that's something that's the key bit there, isn't it? So don't worry, you won't lose any work, and you won't have to go back and start again, which is the most important thing. But as I said, anyone's unsure, drop us a message and we'll get a call set up with the support team and make sure they talk you through it so you're nice and comfortable before you start doing your stats work. No trouble at all.
Thanks, Tony. And I like the emoji. Right, so we're going to go on to the, that brings us to the end of the webinar, actually. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Thank you for the questions. We will be posting the recording on YouTube and on Knowledge Base very shortly. So keep an eye out for that. We'll let you know when it's available. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day and take care, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Take care. Speak to you soon. Cheers, Tom.